Shut up and sit down.
We all have choices, and you can choose to stay on this Western path of modern society, which I don't think works, or you can choose to jump off that path and choose your own destiny. And I hope that everyone knows that you can do that. You don't need to follow norms.
There goes my ride. Oh my gosh. I'm glad I'm alone. Wow, I just landed at my spot, and I feel really lucky. It's beautiful. It is beautiful here. Okay, well, I'm really thrilled to be here. I'm kind of excited to be alone. I might not feel that way later, but I'm very excited right now. And I'm going to go look for my camera equipment and scout my area. You'll see me again soon.
Welcome to Sarge Approved. I'm Sarge and I'm here with Frenzy.
Hey everybody!
Our guest tonight is Nicole Apelian. Dr. Nicole Apelian. How's it going, Nicole?
Hi, Nicole.
Hey, it's going well. Thank you. How are y'all doing tonight?
Really
Great.
good.
We're excited to have you.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
I'm excited to be here.
Yay!
We've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yes, we have.
We
Good, me too.
We've both watched Alone, obviously, and we watched season 2, and I think you're probably Frenzy's favorite one on the show.
Oh, absolutely.
What?
Yeah, totally.
I think it's safe to say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, I would concur.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Definitely. She always talks about how you just, it doesn't seem like you, like anything fazed you.
Yeah, for specifically, like, the bear thing, like, I remember a couple of things in season 1, and the bears were kind of there in the beginning, and they weren't even seen, but they were freaking people out, which it's not bad that happens, but I remember on one of your episodes, there's just these bears chilling down by the river where you had set your net, and you're just like, oh, there they are. I'm just going to leave them alone. Hi, bears. Like,
Hi, bears.
You're just like, whatever. It was really cool.
Yep,
I loved
exactly. Yep, the male bear and I used to hang out and forage on the beach together. It was pretty chill.
it. That's awesome.
And there's that one scene where she was riding one of the bears. Remember that?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Or that was the bonus
Yeah, you
footage.
should have seen the ones they cut.
Yeah, that was in the bonus footage that never made it to air. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I feel like it's like a kind of a vibe. Maybe it's like your vibe that you were giving off to the bears. Like you just kind of had this unassuming, like, hey, we can share the space. We're good.
Yeah, non-threatening.
Like,
You know what? I totally did that. I landed
Yeah.
in the helicopter and it left, and I looked at the ground, and there was like, could tell a mom and cubs lived there for sure by the tracks and the scat, and I just put out this vibe of, hey, I'm here in peace, and it's a safe space, and we're all going to live here together. And
Yeah.
that worked for me. It really did. And that comes from just years of working around predators. Like, I got to say, I had an advantage being around predators, like, because there were wolves and cougar there as well. And I lived in Africa for so many years, been working there for 22 years, and I did lion research there. So I was living in the tent in the bush with lions and hyenas and all sorts of stuff that are out in the wild all the time, 24/7. So I'm kind of used to dealing with, having predators around and what to listen for and how to listen to the birds, and they tell you what's going on in the forest. And so all of that just kind of put I was kind of more at ease out there, I guess, because it was something I was used to.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I feel like your life in Africa and even, in Canada or Vancouver, you guys were, is like a David Attenborough documentary. Like, I'm addicted to watching those on Netflix.
So
like,
good.
love them so much.
Yeah.
And he's my favorite.
I love
know.
his voice.
Yeah, me too. I know whenever he's doing the series or the episode, I'm like, I'm gonna love it. I already know it. I just save it.
Yep.
But I recently watched one on Africa, and I remember like the hyenas were doing a thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine being up close to one of those, and you actually had to like deal with them all the time. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I know. They used to get in my kitchen all the time. They were my big kitchen raiders.
They were.
Oh my gosh,
that's crazy. So where in Africa have you spent most of your time, or have you kind of been all over the place?
I've been all over, but most of my time where I lived and I'm actually going back in a couple weeks where I work is in Botswana in southern Africa.
Okay.
So Okavango Delta and the Kalahari Desert. I work with the San Bushmen over there, and I'm actually leaving to guide over there end of next week. So I'll be gone for a few weeks.
Very cool.
Let's kind of break down, before we do our little sponsorship here, let's kind of break down what you all are about. I have your website up here, and I'm using this as reference. You're Dr. Nicole Apelian. You're a scientist, you're a mother, an educator, a researcher, an expeditionary leader, a safari guide, which you were just talking about, an herbalist, and a traditional skills instructor, and you were on season 2 of Alone. And you lasted 57 days.
Yeah, I did. I hated leaving, actually. I had such a blast out there. It was kind of a bummer when my kids called me home and I had to go. Turned out I did have to come home, but yeah, it was a great 57 days. I got to say, on day 57, I was still, other than, being sad about leaving, I was still really enjoying my time out there. Living in the woods is pretty glorious, and to have someone, like, pay you for it and to be able to spend all that time alone in the woods, like, how many of us get that opportunity, So I felt really lucky to be able to spend all that time outside, just being able to live as I wanted to. It was really so much easier than being a single mom. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm sure. I think that's one of the things too why you were my favorite, is because you really appreciated it and you enjoyed it, and you could tell, like, all the time. You could see it on your face and just in everything you were doing that you really, loved it. So I think that's pretty special.
Yeah. Do you I believe Alan Kay lasted 56 days out there to win season 1. Do you ever remind him that you lasted one more day?
I never do. I don't think I've ever told him that.
Like, you...
Because he could have stayed so much longer, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Maybe I'll bring it up next time.
Yeah, there you go. Alan Kay, the avid camper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, it's such a great description. Yeah, he's very funny.
All right, let's pause real quick so that we can get in our little sponsor ad here.
Shut up.
Hey, this is Frenzy here to talk to you about National Survival Center. This is the place where you can purchase all of your outdoor camping gear and supplies, survival kits, disaster preparedness supplies, bug out bags, and even survival food. All with some of the lowest prices on the internet and free shipping on almost everything. You can depend on National Survival Center to provide you with the highest quality gear paired with superior customer service. And when you purchase your gear from National Survival Center, you're not only getting a great product, but you're receiving products that have all been hand tested to ensure that they'll be reliable, durable, and that they'll function properly. So whether you need some gear for a family camping adventure, or maybe you want to stock up for the zombie apocalypse, National Survival Center can provide you with the quality products you're looking for. You can find them at www.nationalsurvivalcenter.com or www.survivedon'tsuffer.com. Either way, don't suffer, make sure you survive.
Oh, 'cause the dream never said to the dreamer, why did you dream me this way? And the pie never said to its maker, why was I formed from clay? Though the valley don't question the river, about the scars it is laid, still we learn best from the sun, yeah. Who says to south is made.
Welcome back. We're with Nicole Apelian and Frenzy.
Yay. So I have a Botswana question for you.
Yeah, sure.
So I know that the Kalahari and then the Delta becomes like that seasonal flood space, and it becomes like that crazy just time where all the animals kind of rush there and feed and stuff like that? Or,
Is that like the Great Migration?
Yeah. Awesome. What time of year is that? Like what?
Well, the flood comes down in June, so it comes down. The rains fall in Angola, and about in the rainy season, which is November to March, and then 6 months later, the floods reach Botswana, and they really come into full force in our summer, their winter, which is June, July, and but as the floods dry up, sort of if you're end of summer, August, September, October is really hot. The floods dry up, and then all the animals are just concentrated around this water source, and then you can just go and just see everything you want to because everything's concentrated around the water. It's pretty incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is that?
It's a beautiful place.
I'm sure.
Hundreds of thousands of elephants. Every corner, every corner when you're in the Delta, you're around it. There's more, and it's herds of thousands of buffalo on the Chobe River, and it's just an incredible place. I loved living there, and I love going back often and guiding over there. It's just super fun, and I love sharing both the wildlife and also introducing people to this community of Bushmen whom I've been working with for a long time. And people can learning about their skills and what they do on a daily basis and how they live, in this Kalahari desert with looking at what's around them as a pharmacy and a grocery store and getting everything they need from the wild. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's I've really learned a lot from that community about sort of how to live in the present moment. So living in a hunter-gatherer situation, which is kind of like what we were doing on Alone, right? Mm-hmm. All you can think about is the present moment. So you're not worried about the future and you're not regretting the past. You're just living right now and trying to bring that home and live that way now in my life is really important, and I find I'm much happier when I'm able to do that. And being on Vancouver Island, that was really easy to do, and it was a lot of lessons that I'd learned from the Bushmen. But when you're really just thinking about your next meal and making sure you have enough firewood and making sure your shelter, rain's not going to get in and you're going to be warm, you're just covering your kind of basic needs.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that alone, it takes more time and energy. When you're doing it in a group, like a hunter-gatherer group, you don't really have to work that hard because then you've got other people doing it too, and you're living in a community.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think of those things, like I need to create shelter that's dry, or I need to make sure that I have firewood all the time, do you kind of focus on that one task at hand, or do you kind of do a little bit of each thing until you get to the result that you want to end up at?
It kind of just depends on the situation and on the day and on the weather. Mm-hmm. If it's pouring out, I'm not going to be cutting debris to put on my bed. I'm going to wait till it's a little bit drier, or I'm going to cut some and shake it off and put it in my shelter till it dries out. Firewood, I tried to always bank firewood. I actually had a wood shed in my shelter, so I probably had a couple weeks of firewood stored up and ready because I never knew when that storm was going to hit, or maybe I wouldn't be able to leave my shelter for a week.
Right.
And I didn't want to get stuck,
Mm-hmm.
So it really, really was dictated by the day, and really everything up there was dictated by the tides because I was so tied to the ocean, and that's where almost all of my food, except for, banana slugs and some herbals and mushrooms and things like that. Really the rest of the food came from the ocean up there. So the thing you're just tied to is you're tied to the moon cycle and you're tied to the tides. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, you guys really were reliant on those tides. That was very apparent watching the show.
Oh yeah, that was life right there. That was that was it. And you just waited for that full moon. Oh, you were howling at it along with the wolves because you could, go way out on a low tide and really gather really good amounts of food on a good low tide.
Oh yeah. I remember the first salmon that I saw that you had caught in your net, and it was a huge one. It was I don't even remember how you had kind of did this is how big it is with your arms, and
is that the one that she crushed with
and then the one that you crushed its brains in.
Savage, Nicole. Savage, Dr. Apelian.
Yeah, but you ate good for a long time on that.
Y'all got to eat, right?
Yeah. So back to the Bushmen. How did you get into doing something like that? I think that's
where's that story begin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it all started in 1995. I've been working in biology for a long time, and just decided, I'd always wanted to join the Peace Corps. And in 95, I got accepted to go to the Peace Corps in Botswana to work as a game warden for the wildlife department. So it was definitely an opportunity of a lifetime. It's probably one of the most beautiful places in Africa, rich with wildlife, and it was a really great position. So I went over with the Peace Corps, and that they do really good things with them. You know, you're able to, they put you in a place where you're making a local wage, so you're not sort of going in as this great white savior. You know, you're
Right.
living, making a local wage, living like local folks do, working for the wildlife department, and they give you language training and cultural training, and it was a really great way to enter a country.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
I got to sort of sink in fully with them, and then when that ended, I didn't want to leave Botswana. I loved Botswana, and I decided I wanted to stay, and it just happened that there was an opening. Someone had come down from Kenya who was starting a research project on lions, and he was looking for someone who had like a graduate degree in biology, specifically genetics and ecology, which was my background at the time, and wanted someone who could, you know, fix a truck, and, you know, because sometimes you're by yourself in the middle of nowhere, and you have to be able to do that, and who knew the area, knew the wildlife, and could be on their own, because oftentimes he'd be off grant writing, and I'd be by myself for long periods of time out in the bush. And that was before satellite phones, or, you know, we didn't even have a radio. You know, I'd be 6 hours from the nearest person. No one knew where I was, and
Just
you know,
all
I'd
by
break down
yourself?
next to a pride of lions, and
Right.
you have to fix it, right?
Yeah.
So
We
it's the
hope she
ultimate
comes
in
back.
self-reliance.
Wow.
I didn't have a tap out button there.
No, not at all.
So that project really allowed me to stay, and that was a really great project in the Okavango Delta just studying the ecology and genetics and reproductive biology of lions.
Wow.
And it was really fun, and kind of got me just kind of fed my passions, being able to live outside and listen to the, you know, really use sensory awareness and bird language and tracking, not knowing that's what it was at the time. I knew what tracking was, but I wasn't calling bird language. I just knew that, you know, when the hornbills and the starlings are going off over here, there's probably, and they're dive bombing, there's probably a dangerous ground snake really close, and I needed to watch out for that. So I learned these things without actually putting a name to them of what they were. And that really kind of opened up my mind and my sort of that primal survival brain. And that really sort of sprung me into the rest of my life. I really started working with the Bushmen later, and when I came back to the States, I started my safari company so I could go back and guide people and bring them to where, you know, a place that I was really passionate about. And working with this community of Bushmen, again, opened my eyes more with working with the women and the healers, and learning about medicinal plants, and learning about, you know, how they do friction fire, and then taking all those skills and learning them here in the Pacific Northwest and then, you know, in other parts of the world. So it really spurred my love of sort of ancestral skills, and also how indigenous communities function. So all of that really just has tied into what I do now, which is, you know, went back to school again and got my degree in anthropology, and then, you know, I teach part-time at Prescott College in their graduate school. I have a couple of master students there, but mostly I just teach skills because that's what I like to do. I teach herbal medicine and medicinal plants, and I teach workshops on, you know, fire, shelter, water, food, preparedness, and all of that. And when people ask me what do you do right now, I generally just say, I teach wilderness living skills, and I'm an herbalist. And every couple of years, my answers change. But that's how you keep it exciting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
Yep.
How come you don't have lion expert listed under your experience on your website here?
I don't know. I guess I should throw that in.
That'd be pretty cool to have on your resume.
Oh, yeah, I haven't needed to use a resume for a while, but I'll throw that in. I'll add that to my website, Lion Expert.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Just in case you need a backup resume.
Thanks for the input.
Yeah.
So how closely and how often were you dealing with these lions when you were in Botswana?
Oh, daily.
Like
Daily. I mean, I was...
wild lions.
Wild lions. So we had 5 prides that we followed. We had radio collars on certain members of each pride, so we were able to find them on a daily basis using our tracking equipment. And but often there were some times when, you know, you thought you were tracking lions, but of course there's other lions that are not tagged, right, that don't have a radio collar. So you'd be able to get the major groups, but, you know, I definitely had a lot of experiences where I remember I broke down once, and it was by myself on this very, very deep sand road, and I had my tracking equipment near me, and I was only like an hour from camp, but there's nobody around, so and I got really stuck in deep sand, and I had to dig myself out, but there's no like rocks there or anything like.
Yeah, what are you going to use?
I had to go find big logs. I had to jack my truck up and find logs and shovel things away and put logs under it and just try to get myself out of this situation. And there was nothing I could winch to. Everything was too far to winch my truck. And I decided to turn on I'd seen tracks there earlier that day. I'm like, let me see if any of my radio-collared lions are around, because I knew there were lions around there because I'd seen tracks. And I turned it on, and all of a sudden I get this. So when you're radio tracking, it's sort of very faint beeps that you sometimes get if they're, close-ish. But I got this thing that was, beep, beep. Oh my gosh, they're watching me. And it was one of the big pride males. So I was like, oh, okay. Wow, I better watch my step. And it was getting dark. And there were a lot of experiences like that where there were kind of close calls. And the lions would come into camp almost every night because, we lived in their territory. And there's no fences.
Why would they
so
let you
things were in and out of camp constantly.
Why would they let you go out by yourself? That's insane.
Well, it was the 90s, and it was just, I was either with, with my research partner or sometimes alone, and depended. And later on, we had other people who came into the research camp and became a part of the camp as well, other researchers. But for a while, it was just the two of us, and oftentimes, I remember there was a 7-week period when Peter was off doing grant writing, and I was by myself at camp, and it's just, I don't know, it was just how it was then. I was in my 20s, and I was invincible, of course.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, now I carry a satellite phone just in case, and those sorts of things. But yeah, at the time I was, of course, totally invincible, as we all are in our 20s, right?
Oh, yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm glad I lived through it.
Yeah, me too. What about, as far as the things that you were tracking, were you tracking just kind of overall population, or like cubs, or just how the movement of the where prides were going, kind of that sort of thing, or just? Yeah,
we did some basic things like territory size, prey selection, natality, dispersal, what happens to young males when they get kicked out of the pride, how far do they go, whom do they mate with. We would take blood samples and analyze it for genetics to see whom was related to whom, and then a lot of reproductive biology. That was more my research partner's specialty, not mine, and another woman who came in later, that was her specialty, was reproductive biology. So they both focused on that aspect and the veterinary side of it. But mine was more looking at the genetics and ecology. And it was really fun. It was fascinating, and it basically kept me outside 24/7 for a long period of time. And I'm the happiest when I'm outside for 24/7 for long periods of time. So it was really wonderful. And this was before, of course, the days of social media or even internet. We didn't even have internet then. So it really allowed you to sink in deeply, which is kind of what I was allowed to do on the show too. Sink in deeply and not have access to media and always having to check it or answer things, or boy, it's freeing to not have to answer emails or return a phone call.
Absolutely, it is.
Oh boy, it's totally freeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you were filming everything yourself, you were absolutely alone. Nobody at all to deal with.
Yeah, no one else out there. We were totally solo. And I know it's funny, as we got better at the filming, getting more angles and more camera angles, the more people would say, oh, there's no way they're alone. The filming's getting too good. And it's just as you're out there longer, you get better at the filming. That's all it was.
Yeah. Well, I know there's plenty of time that's probably spent just preparing your basic needs and everything, but there had to have been plenty of downtime, too, where you just...
Oh, there was.
What did you do to pass the time and not just get insanely bored or go crazy?
Yeah, I don't really get bored being bored is what people would call it. I don't get bored very easily. I'm really good at doing nothing. It's a great skill to have.
Yeah, it is.
So I spent a lot of time sitting on my front porch. I made a little front porch off my shelter, doing things like weaving baskets. I weaved a lot of baskets on the island. Or I'd go, if it wasn't completely pouring, I'd go out to a point that was near me, and I would sit at my sit spot out there and watch the wildlife, and to the point where I would get, know what was happening. I know at this time the eagle's going to swoop in from this direction and sit in that southern tree. I know that the buffleheads are going to come down and land in the water. The animals got really used to me, so they'd come close. For the first months, the mink that lived there wouldn't even get near me. They were scared to death. And I remember one day, about a month in, sitting on my out on my point at my sit spot, and this mink, whom really hadn't gotten close to me at all, and I'd only seen the tail of it diving into its burrow, came out and ate its crab just 2 feet from me. And just all of a sudden, I kind of realized, wow, I've arrived, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then there were also those days where it was raining and so hard and the storms were so bad that you couldn't leave your shelter because the trees were coming down at an alarming rate, and if you had gone out, it was very likely to get hit by something, and that was a real danger, is getting hit by something falling. And so those days I would just hole up in my shelter and kind of be inside my own head. I did a little bit of filming those days. You know, every once in a while I'd check in with the camera, but mostly I was just sort of holed up in my shelter, either carving or sometimes even just sleeping. I took a lot of naps. I've never slept so well in my life. It was great.
Naps are the best ever. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, I slept beautifully. And I'd go to bed early each night. You know, when the time it gets dark, you don't want to be out because it's dangerous because you could slip and fall really easily, and it's dark. There are cougar around. And so when it was dark, I'd be back at my camp, and there's really only so long I can sit in front of my fire by myself. And so often I'd go to bed quite early. I'd bring in the hot rocks from my fire to warm my shelter up, put my door in, seal up all the little spaces around my door, and then my shelter would warm up within 5 minutes, even on the coldest day, between the hot rocks and my own body heat, because it was so insulated. And I'd just sort of go to bed quite early, and then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and be awake, but it's dark and in my shelter, and just sort of thinking to myself. And I a lot of childhood memories came back, and things I hadn't thought of for a long time, good things that came back into my head. And then eventually morning would come, and I'd sort of peek outside to see if it was morning, because I couldn't see any light from inside my shelter because it was so heavily built.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, this is time to get up now. And, and off I would go. So
yeah, it
was really nice.
You had a really nice, cozy shelter that you had built there. It was pitch black from the looks of it when you were inside and the door was all closed up.
It was. That was really key for me. I wanted to build a home and a place that I would feel really comfortable living. And I'm small, like I'm a kind of a petite person. So for me, warmth, body heat was key. So it would be really easy. One of the things I thought might take me out would be hypothermia because I am so small. So building a shelter that was really warm and really dry was one of my top priorities. And I just built and built and built that thing. There's 3 feet of debris on all sides. I had a floor. I had a raised bed with a big, huge, thick mattress that I would add to it all the time. And that was really important for my sort of survival strategy, and also to conserve calories, too, not shivering, you know. But I wanted to be warm. I hate being cold. So for me, that's all about gear, and also, you know, your shelter, which is your clothes, and then, of course, the shelter that you build around you and fire. So making sure that I had all of that.
What were the temperatures getting down to at night on the island?
Freezing.
Really?
Definitely. They were freezing, and it's different being cold there than, let's say, like, I don't know, the Midwest or something like that. It's a very different type of cold because it's not a dry cold, it's a wet cold. And that cold, even at 45 degrees, it's really easy to get hypothermia in that range.
Yeah.
And so when it was really cold, it was sort of, when you were outside in it, I had enough gear. I felt like I had plenty of gear to keep me warm. But it's that cold that gets in your bones. So the thing is, you don't want to get so cold that you have to recover from it. So that was my thing, is make sure I don't get so cold that I'm going to not be able to recover from it. Because bouncing back is really hard. And it just, that wet cold really gets in you.
Yeah,
So,
and then once you have things that are wet, too, I feel like it'd be hard to get it to be dry, fully dry again. Like
It is. I
articles
drowned
of
my
clothing.
boots a couple of times, and I had to heat them by the fire, putting hot rocks in them to dry them out, and it would take a long time. You know, things would mold very easily. I had a toothbrush. It molded almost right away. That was the only hygienic item we were given. So I just used a stick after that. I did bring in my necklace I wore, and it had a leather strap, and that molded within a couple weeks.
Wow.
So right off my neck.
Wow.
Did you bring a sleeping bag?
I did. Everybody brought a sleeping bag.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was no one who didn't.
What kind of temperature were those rated for?
Oh, mine was like really cold. I think it was minus 30 or something like that.
Nice.
But for women, you got to remember you have to add 15 degrees on because our body temperatures are different. So it's probably like a minus 15 in reality. But with those cold temperatures, I felt like I really needed that. I don't think a zero bag would have done it. So
No.
definitely a warm sleep. Yeah, there was no limit on how warm your sleeping bag could be, and so I went with something really, really warm and figured if I got hot, I could just open it up.
Yeah, stick your leg out or something.
Yeah, because you guys all had to bring your own gear besides the stuff.
We did. We supplied our own gear. Yeah,
that's
which was nice. I'm glad they didn't choose it for us, so it gave us some leeway as far as, because gear selection is actually a big part of if you're going to go out in the woods. Choosing the right gear is important, and different gear for different people. The knife that I brought might not work for somebody else, and vice versa.
It's a very personal thing.
It really is. It really is. So I was really glad we were able to choose our own gear. And I just mostly went with wool for clothing. I mean, I'm a firm believer in wool. Wool underlayers and wool clothes. And a lot of times, even when it was raining, I would wear my wool jacket. And unless it was pouring, then I put my raincoat on. But because wool dries really easily, and it doesn't get smelly and gets full of bacteria and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I'm sure I smelled, but I don't think I smelled as bad as I would have had I not brought wool along.
It wicks water pretty well, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It's a really great material for being outside.
So with the herbalist side of things, you got started in that whole field in Botswana, correct?
I did. I did with the elder women and with the Kalahari Bushman tribe that I work with, the community there. They got really me started on that path, and then I learned. I've been studying here for a long time, going to gatherings and learned from a lot of really great mentors and reading a lot. And the scientist in me has me going back and reading research papers and old books and all sorts of things to really see what past uses were for some of these herbs, because in the past, and it's not like a lot of people think it's this woo-woo thing, it's herbal medicine, but really it's what we've been using forever. It's the new medicine that's new, and kind of, in a way, some of it's untested.
Yeah.
This is the stuff we've been using for eons. So I just love herbal medicine. I make salves and tinctures, and I have cabinets full of all sorts of jars in different states of, different arrays of lungwort and, arnica, whatever I happen to be, tincturing at the time. And it's really fun I treat my kids with herbal medicine. I treat myself with herbal medicine, and it's really been great to help other people. Like someone come to me with shoulder pain or arthritis, and I'll be able to help them with natural means and keep them off the sort of all the Western medications that have so many side effects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's scary the kind of side effects you get from pharmaceutical medication.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. I remember when I got diagnosed with MS when I was 30. So it was 17 years ago, or almost 18 years ago. They put me on all this Western medication, and I got so sick. It was awful. And boy, when I went off it, I felt so much better. And then adding in herbal things and lifestyle changes and changes in your diet, make all the difference. Because when you go to the doctor and you're ill, they should ask you, so what's your lifestyle like? What's your stress level like? What are you eating? Are you exercising? What are your vitamin levels like? But really, they just usually, not all people, but a lot of times you just get prescribed a medication. And, your blood pressure's high, you get a medication. But there's a lot of other ways you can alter your physicality, both through your psychological well-being and just through herbal medicine, where you can actually not, avoid being on Western medication with huge amounts of side effects.
Right, yeah.
So that's a real passion of mine.
It's crazy. You see some of these commercials for some of these medications, the Western medicine.
Oh, yeah.
It would be like a pill for high blood pressure, and they start rattling off these side effects, and there's 47 different side effects, and by the time you get to the end of the list, you're like, what? Why was I taking this again? What was my original ailment?
Yeah, plus they always say, and there's more side effects, so check our website for the full list. It's like, what? There's more?
Exactly. And then something comes along that works, and it's cheap, and they don't promote it because Big Pharma doesn't want us to know about cheap alternatives,
Oh, absolutely.
It's all about the money grab.
It's pretty incredible.
So
It sure is.
Disgusting.
It sure is.
Gross.
Yeah, in a previous life I worked for, I had a job where I would book these pharmaceutical groups to come in and
for shame,
not
Francie.
that I chose to, but I booked events, and there was a lot of pharmaceutical groups that would come in, and they had this whole kind of situation where they could only spend this much per person, and it was like $100 a person for drinks and food, and it's basically they're basically buying them to get to sign up these doctors and stuff to get to sign up to bring on this drug to sell, or prescribe or whatever.
Yeah, you want,
so it's just
to dine those doctors.
Oh, absolutely. And I just felt like icky about it. I'm like, I don't really want it. Like, I don't like it.
Icky.
It felt icky.
It's icky.
It is icky.
It's just wrong. Doctors shouldn't get paid to give medicine to people.
Exactly.
It alters their mental state of what they're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
That's just wrong.
Like a
that
quick
should be,
fix.
if we're gonna. I'm not a fan of the government being in our business, but if they're going to get in our business, that's something they should stop right there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Oh boy.
So what are a couple of good things to bring out in the wilderness that you would find around your home, the average person would find around your home, that you would bring out, that your herbalist expertise that you would recommend?
Well, I mean, there's some things that are kind of across the entire country. And actually, there are things that people used on alone, like yarrow and plantain are two big ones that almost everybody has in their area or even in their yard. Plantain you want to be careful about because you don't want to gather it from somewhere that's been sprayed. It's often in like lawns and things like that because it likes disturbed areas. But boy, eating that stuff helps with leaky gut. It's a fantastic thing to chew it up and put on bites and stings. To put on a wound, it has tannins to stop bleeding. I mean, it has wonderful, wonderful effects from that. This weed essentially. Yarrow is a great antibacterial. I either tincture it or in alcohol, and then you can put it in your mouth when you need it, and it'll bring fevers down, or I put it in a spray bottle if I have a sore throat, and it'll, to get rid of things like UTIs and strep and all sorts of other things.
Really?
And it's a great one, and externally it's an antibacterial. So I used it under my arms a lot, and when I was alone, because it was my only deodorant. But I would make tea out of it. It tastes terrible as a tea. It's not really a good tea. But I would make tea out of it to make sure my system would stay clean. Usnea, or witch's hair, is a lichen that I use almost every day. I spray it, I tincture it, and I put it in a spray bottle, and I spray it in my throat morning and night so I don't get sick. And if I do get sick, I use elderberry, and again, that's blue elderberries, really all over the place. And the berries from that make a really, really healthy. You don't want to just eat them raw, but you can make a syrup or a tincture or anything with that. And they're really, really good for, again, it's antiviral, so stopping colds and flu in their tracks. So there's so many things out there that you can use, and even like dirty medicine. You don't have to necessarily tincture this stuff. You can be walking in the woods and have a wound, and you can take some usnea and put it on that, or yarrow and put it directly on that and make a poultice, and it works beautifully. It really does.
What does it mean to tincture?
So there's a lot of little things. A tincture is like when you take a plant, you dry it, and then you put it in some kind of medium like oil or alcohol or glycerin. And you leave it for a couple months, and then you strain off the plant, and you've got the medicine left in whatever your medium is. Okay. And so you'll have like a dropper bottle full of, let's say, usnea that's been tinctured in alcohol, and you don't have much alcohol when you're taking it; you just do like a dropper full. But you get really, really heavy medicine in that, and it's a really good way to extract the medicinal properties of plants and lichens and things.
Interesting.
Very cool.
And it's not that hard. I teach classes on it. Like it's people are always overwhelmed by like, oh, I can't do that. But really, you tell them to come and take a class, and they're like, oh, I can totally do that. It's fun to empower people with that kind of knowledge.
Right? Yeah, and it's just things that are kind of all around us that you don't even realize that you can use in a great way.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Right out your door.
Yep.
One of the natural things I've heard a lot of uses from is honey, raw honey.
Oh, yes. Honey is really good for burns, especially. Really brilliant. Or your kid gets, road rash. They slide off their skateboard and they hit the gravel and they've got all this gravel in their wound. You just pour honey on it, and it doesn't kill all the white blood cells that are coming, like, some kind of alcohol spray would that a lot of people, that are in a lot of the sprays that people spray on that kind of thing. You don't wash away all that stuff. You put honey on it, and the honey drains away all the dirt and all the gravel. And then honey has great healing properties. It's really good for allergies if you take it internally. It's really good for wounds externally. Really great on burns, especially. So it's a magical elixir.
Yeah.
It really is. Local raw honey.
It's really healthy for you too. It's good for eating too. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely. Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's what I have in my tea. I have honey. Definitely use raw honey in that. It's really good for you. And, yeah, anyone with allergies, that's a great thing to take.
I think I'd want to bring
it really is.
I think I'd want to bring the little teddy bear jar of raw honey out with me in a survival situation.
Yeah, but raw honey, not the sugar-added honey.
Yeah, the raw honey.
Yeah.
Right, the raw honey. Yeah, but you could do that, right? If you get dropped in alone, you can't. But if you got your own survival bug out bag, you can put whatever you want in it.
Yeah,
Yep.
honey and peanut butter.
Keep some in your car.
Gotta have a jar of peanut butter.
Yeah, for sure, peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
Some kind of jerky, too, I think.
A lot of peanut butter stashed, yes.
Yeah.
If you gotta start eating crickets and slugs and stuff, you
dip
can
it in some peanut
dip
butter.
in some peanut butter. Make some ants on a log.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect. Literally.
Yeah, that can make anything taste decent.
Yeah. So when you came back from alone, what was the first legitimate thing that you craved to go eat? That you were like, I'm so excited to go eat this. I was kind of
craving sushi, which is weird. I know we were eating a lot of fish, but sushi's different,
Yep.
And I was really craving sugars. We didn't have carbohydrates. I had dug some roots and things like that, so there was some carbohydrates, but really you were just living off of mainly protein and greens. So carbohydrates were big. So I was craving. For some reason, I was craving cheesecake. That's what I was craving, which I don't normally eat that much of. I don't eat gluten, and I try not to eat much sugar. But when I came out, I was definitely wanting sugar. Like, it was amazing out there when I would find, like, a berry, and I'd eat it, and it would be like this sugar like, you wouldn't even think of a berry as being that sweet. Like a huckleberry, especially. It's not that sweet. But you put it in your mouth, and it was like the sugar had exploded in your mouth, and it was incredible, like, how sugary it tasted, because you just hadn't had sugar.
Like a fruit snack.
So your taste buds really, really change. But I definitely was craving that sweet, not sweets as much as like sweet things, like cheesecake.
Cheesecake.
Didn't Alan Kay say that his thing he craved was like chocolate cake or something?
German chocolate cake.
German chocolate cake.
Yep.
Yeah. I think he got gifted a lot of those when he got back.
Yeah,
He's kind of done
he
with
did.
it now.
He's like, I can't look at another piece of German chocolate cake ever in my life.
Exactly. Yep.
So are you doing quite a bit of traveling then, it seems like, with these different classes that you're doing, these guided classes that you're doing? I'm looking at your website.
I do
right now.
some. I do. Well, I just go to Africa usually just once a year for this particular trip. I go for a few weeks, and I'm going early to work on a project over there, and then I'll be guiding there for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And but generally, I do a lot of teaching. I'll be in Replicon in April, and then we're going back to our sites actually end of April, and back to Vancouver Island. A few of us are, and then I'll be in Vancouver, BC, talking to the Northwest Naturopaths at their big convention. I'm keynoting up there, which will be really fun. And I teach a lot of primitive skills gatherings. Like, I just got back from Arizona, where I was teaching. And so it was a week teaching, but about a 2-week trip when you add travel and driving back and forth and everything into it. Mm-hmm. But I try to teach a lot out my back door, too. This weekend I'm going up to the San Juan Islands, so off the coast of Washington, and I'm teaching 10 women a women's skills workshop. They put their group together. It was women got together, got a group, and called me to come teach it for them. So,
awesome.
So I do things like that, which is fun. And I do teach a lot at my door. Like, I just taught a class last Saturday at my own home on herbal medicine and salve and tincture making. And in 3 hours, people, learned all about the local herbal medicines that are here, and they came away being able to make their own herbal salves and herbal tinctures, and with a lot of knowledge. And then I have property out here. Like in May, Alan Kay and I are running a 5-day workshop out at my property from May 12th to May 16th. And there's more about that on my website, NicoleApelian.com.
Yeah,
we run skills workshops.
You got
awesome.
22 acres of private land, it says.
I do.
That's
it's lovely on a river. And the salmon spawn right there.
That sounds amazing.
It's really nice. It is. So it's a great place to teach. It's just beautiful and, really amazing land, and only 12 miles from the coast, so we can go to the coast and do foraging and really show people what it was like to be, how we lived on alone, and how would you live if you were in that kind of situation. And we add in some modern things as well. We add in about emergency preparedness and what you should have in your bug out bag and how you can prepare at home, and some wilderness medicine as well. because all of that is really, really super important to know, in my opinion, is to not just know the skills, but also of how to live in the wild, but also know how to, what you should have, food especially, what should you have put up and ready, and what should you have with you at all times so you don't get stuck in a survival situation. Or if something really bad does happen, you'll be okay, So we teach a lot of that as well. Both Alan and I teach that quite often, emergency preparedness and everyday carry stuff, and how to, what do you do in that kind of situation? And so people we don't want to scare people, but we want to prepare people. So then if something does happen, they feel empowered and ready. So
absolutely, they have the knowledge. I think it's really, really cool that you and Alan have collaborated together. Since, and I don't know if you guys knew each other before the show or not, or if the show kind of brought you together, but either way, I think it's really cool.
We didn't know each other before the show.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's awesome. You both are kind of passionate about the things that you do, and it's nice to have, someone that's on the same page and want to spread the word.
And from the first 2 seasons, I think that Alan and you, Nicole, are the 2 contestants over those other 18 contestants that just seemed the most carefree. Like, it was just a walk in the woods for you guys. Like,
absolutely.
Nothing fazed you. Just like, all right, I guess I'm going to stay out here as long as I need to stay out here. And
Yep. Yeah, it felt like that out there. I can't speak for the other people, and a lot of them were really awesome. I'm friends with most of them, and they're very skilled and really great people, and we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. But I think our mental state, we definitely both kind of enjoyed the day-to-day out there and didn't think of it as a strain or as a stress, but really as like a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
So that was
for
nice.
all we know, because I know there's a lot of footage that you didn't get to see on TV. For all we know, there's a lot of footage we didn't get to see as viewers of you and Alan just like in the fetal position, sobbing and rocking back and forth. Like, I can't do this. I
didn't have any of that. I actually filmed everything. I was one of those people, and he was too, that filmed everything. So they tried to pull out as many bad moments as they could, but there weren't a lot to pull out. So. But then there were people that they only showed their bad moments,
Yeah, true.
Who had a lot of good moments too. So it's you never know what's going to be, what the editing room's going to look like. But all we can do is do our thing and hope that our true personalities come through. And I think the show did that. I think people's personalities really, for the most part, really came through. I'd say the exception would be maybe Larry, because Larry's this really kind-hearted, gentle soul who wouldn't hurt a fly, But the him swearing through the woods sort of got a lot of the attention of people.
Yeah.
And and he's one of the most kind-hearted people that I know, and I think he's like my brother, and I think that's I wish people had seen more of. I think they did as the season went on. They saw more of that side of him, but some of that, the swearing at the trees and stuff was brought out a lot. But, that's how he releases his stress.
Right,
So.
I was just going to say, everyone releases their stress in a different way.
Some of the kindest people I know swear frequently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And he doesn't in general company either. Like, he just does when he's alone in the woods. So.
And he's Larry Roberts, correct? He's a fellow Minnesotan, isn't he?
Yes.
He is. That's right. He is. He's a Minnesotan. Yep. And he was just down at Winter Count as well, so I just got to see him. We all see each other fairly often. Jose was just down from the Yukon. He was at the gathering in Arizona, and he and Alan and I taught a weekend workshop up here at my land in February.
That's
so
awesome.
we all still. We're like a big alone family now with seasons 1, 2, and 3, and
really cool.
It's really nice. We help each other out and promote each other's stuff, and just also when people transition out, it's a hard transition. I found we've been able to talk to each other about what is it like to live alone for 2 months and then come back to society. Because for most of us, it's a terrible transition. It's great out there, and then you come home and you're like, oh my gosh, no one gets me, and you sort of see society for what it is. Because you've had this eye-opening experience, and it's really hard to come back to. And it's hard that there's no one to talk to about that shared experience, because how many people have had that sort of experience?
Yeah. Right.
So we've been able to talk a bit
fellow
amongst
contestants.
ourselves. Yes, exactly. We can talk to fellow contestants, and at least there's someone to listen, and you can bend someone's ear about your experiences, and they understand. So
yeah,
that's
and I feel
really
like
positive.
it probably makes you kind of naturally gravitate towards each other too a little bit, because you you share
we're all
something
crazy
together.
people who went on alone.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
A bunch of crazies.
the closest thing I can
Exactly.
compare that to is serving overseas. I did a year and a half over in Iraq when I was in the Army, and it's obviously a totally different situation. We had people with us, we weren't alone. But coming back is, a crazy transition. Going from a totally different world and then coming back to civilian life is really hard to adjust. And in the same way, you kind of rely on your fellow soldiers that went through the same experience to talk about things like that. And the
I think it's not that different. Not that different a homecoming. I really think there's a lot of similarities there. You go off and you come back, and a lot of times people that I don't want to speak for you, but I've heard from a lot of stories from people that have been deployed overseas. They come home and all they want to do is get back, not because they want to get back to the war, but because they want to get back to their community. Like they had a tribe of people there and they had purpose, and all of a sudden they're back here and no one gets that, and they feel a little purposeless. And that's kind of a common theme there. I was just reading a book called Tribe by Sebastian Junger, who talks about that quite a lot. He talks about PTSD, and he talks about homecoming and why there's so much mental illness and how mental illness goes down, and actually in times of war, like during the Blitz in London, the mental hospitals essentially emptied out because everyone had a sense of purpose. Everyone was living in the moment. And so all of a sudden everyone was psychologically very healthy despite them being in the midst of a war and being bombed all the time. So there is something to be said about that living in the now and living in the moment, and how that affects you psychologically and therefore physically. So
it's a good thing that I'm not a real big planner. That I just
exactly.
That I'm kind of the guy that just wings it. That's good.
Not all the time.
Oh yeah,
totally
good. Yep.
I would disagree, but that's okay.
Yeah, see, I don't work with you, so it's great. Yeah.
Frenzy's definitely the planner of this podcast. That's for sure. Yeah. I can be a bit of a slacker.
Well, you gotta have someone that balances you out, right?
Yeah, right.
Exactly. That's why it works.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
So when are you leaving for Africa?
Next week.
Oh my gosh, so soon. And then how long are you going to be gone?
I'll be gone for a few weeks. I'll get back in early April.
Okay.
So.
Very cool.
Yep.
If you bring a camera, which I'm assuming you might, I don't know, maybe not.
Oh, yes.
Will you take a picture of a lion and then send it to me when you come back if you see one? Or any kind of wild animal?
I'm sure I'll
an
see
elephant?
lions.
Okay.
Yep.
I would.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I'll see elephants. Yep. Yeah,
that would make
you go to Botswana
my
and you don't see an elephant, there's something wrong. Yeah.
Okay. I would love it.
I will. We'll have a photographer with us for this trip too, which is nice.
Very
it
cool.
sort of takes the pressure off people. But I always take my camera. I do. I mean, I've been working there for 22 years, and I still take pictures of because it's new every time.
Yeah.
It's a different elephant.
I'm sure.
So.
How often? Yep. How long has it been? How often are you going to Botswana? Is it a yearly thing? Or?
Now, not as often. I'm only since the last 2 years. I've only been going once a year. So I'm hoping to up that again to twice a year again. But my schedule just got kind of busy with the show and everything. So I've been going once a year since then.
And you've got PrepperCon coming up too.
Yeah, how cool is that?
Yep, PrepperCon's coming up. That's going to be great. It's such a great way too. It's really inexpensive. I think it's $20 for the weekend for people that want to go. It's in Salt Lake City, April 21st and 22nd. And for folks that want to go to that, it's a really inexpensive way to take classes and learn about prepping. And there'll be a lot of vendors there. And Alan and I are both teaching there. We'll both be teaching classes and have a panel also on survival and things like that. So it's going to be. It's a really great way for people to kind of dip their toe in for not that much money.
Yeah.
So
if you're in the Salt Lake City area during that time and you don't at least stop by PrepperCon, there's something wrong with you.
It's how much?
$20.
Exactly.
$20?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you can just do everything?
Yes. That's for
$20?
both days. I think you could just go for one day if you want. And it's like $13 or something. It's really inexpensive.
You'd be silly not to go. Just to even see what it's about.
Everybody should go.
Yes.
Yeah, and we'll be there, so whoever goes hopefully can come say hi and Yep.
We'll make sure to put that on our website and our social media too, that link to that, so people can check that out.
Great, yeah. I think it's such a good thing, social service for people to go do that and learn.
That's awesome. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then where can everybody find you if they want to learn more about
me,
you? Yeah,
www.NicoleApelian.com, NicoleApelian, and lots of stuff on that website. I also guide over in Africa, so that's my ecotoursinternational.com website. And there's links from my Nicole Apelian site over to that. And that's probably the main place. And,
okay.
I'm pretty good at answering emails, or if people call me up, or Facebook. I have a public Facebook page, Nicole Apelian Survival, and I often post things there and try to answer people's messages, except when I'm really, off grid, as I am sometimes.
Yeah.
But I try to be really good about answering people. And, I teach a lot of classes, but I also, like this women's workshop I'm doing, a group of women got together and they're flying me up and then teaching them for the weekend. So, there's those opportunities as well. So I'm always open to teaching things, and I love teaching. So it's so fun. It's so exciting to see people shift and all of a sudden feel really empowered about what they all of a sudden know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then there's lots of primitive skills gatherings or ancestral skills gatherings around the country, and that's another great way I teach at a number of them, and there's lots of great instructors, and a lot of the people you see on like Discovery and History and those channels, like we all started out at those traditional skills gatherings, and we all still teach there. So it's a really great place for, a few $100s for the week, including your food, to go and take all of these classes from amazing instructors. So you get someone who's really good at flint napping. You take it from, the world's best flint napper was at the last gathering, Take it from him, and then you go, you want to learn how to make a knife. You can go with a really great bladesmith. You want to do an herbal medicine class, you come see me. Or
to make your own knife.
So wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I'm totally going to come take a class sometime in the next year. I'm putting that on my bucket list. I'm going to do it.
Excellent. Fun.
Go.
Fun. Come on out.
You can
Oregon's
come too.
beautiful.
Okay.
So.
You have to plan it, though.
It's really beautiful out here.
I'll plan it.
With the herbalism, is that mostly around the medicinal use of plants and whatnot, or does that include edibles, things you can actually eat too?
Both. I do teach foraging and foods that you can find in the forest, and then the herbal medicine classes. The ones that are strict herbal medicine classes generally, just time-wise, we stick with things that are medicinal. But I'm always happy to answer. I always end up answering questions about lots of other things too. So people bring their ailments to me or ask about this, what to forage at certain times of year. And there's so much abundance if you really know what to look for.
I know.
And
that's what I want to get better at is learning wild edibles and what I can eat out in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I want to
And you
study
feel
about.
really healthy eating those. I'm
Right?
wandering through the woods and I'm eating a little of this and a little of that. And boy, eating wild foods, never felt healthier. I mean, being on a Vancouver Island, I felt, maybe that was an advantage. I don't know. I felt like so good, eating all these wild foods, and I just felt healthy, and I don't know. I felt wonderful just having those good nutrients because that's what our bodies are designed to absorb, right? All those natural nutrients.
Yep.
Yeah.
So not these processed things.
Right.
So I just felt great.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I bet you. Yeah. Except for the carbohydrates. I mean, is that something that's pretty much impossible to find in the wild?
Roots, you can definitely dig up roots, and I did at some points, and I didn't show any of it, but I did. There were roots up there that I was able to dig. If you're doing agriculture, it's easier to find carbohydrates because you can plant things. Mm-hmm. But there are some wild things. Cattail root is a great source of carbohydrates, and that's pretty much everywhere. Wapato root, wild potatoes. So there are a lot of carbohydrates in the wild. You just have to know where to look for, and it really varies area to area as well. Yeah. Where we were, there were not that many, and but I went off carbs a month. I don't eat that many anyway. I eat a paleo-ish diet, but one of my things is I didn't eat no caffeine, no alcohol, no carbohydrates for a month before the trip, for the most part, and it really made sure that my body didn't go through ketogenic shock. Most people who were on the show, they're a lot of them are carbo loading the night before, and I get it because that's what you're used to eating. But that means they actually had to go through ketogenic shock, which is a terrible thing to go through, especially when you're alone in the wild. So that's when you get those like dips and people are going through those hungers, you know.
And they're
I was
crabby.
lucky in that I never had to go through that, right?
Yeah.
And you get crabby.
Uh-huh.
I never really went through
You
that
swear at
because I
trees.
already had my body's been trained that way already, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to think about it.
Is that why Larry was
Yep.
cussing out the trees?
Because he was craving
exactly.
some carbs.
He just needed some carbohydrates.
Just
Was
That's
it
some
all.
bleeping
Would have been
carbs.
fine.
Yeah. Wasn't Larry
Yep.
the one that was craving fried chicken? Was that Larry that was craving fried chicken?
No, that was David.
Oh, that was David.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he just was like
But you
all
know, it's
about the fried
interesting.
chicken.
Most people on our season said that, towards the end, they kind of leveled off. Like, they found their new body weight. Like, people are thinking, oh, they're just starving out there. Season 3 was a little bit different. But for our season, like, mostly you get to a place where your body should be, and then they actually started gaining a little weight back, you know? I know both Jose and David told me that they were actually gaining weight back at the end.
Yeah.
And it's because they had reached their natural body weight, which is really small. Like, I work with the Kalahari Bushmen, and if you look at their legs, from our perspective, they'd be called anorexic. But they're getting great, good nutrition, and they're exceedingly healthy, and they're not eating that much food. So we really, I think we really overeat in our society.
Oh,
absolutely.
without a doubt.
Yeah. And
We're so big
so,
now.
when we're getting really skinny, as long as we're, not dipping too low and getting into actual starvation mode, there does come a point where your body does a reset.
Yeah.
And then you actually start feeling really good again. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like it.
Crazy. That would be one of the toughest things for me, being out in the wilderness for an extended period of time, is the hunger, I think, because I don't do well.
Oh, yeah.
when I get hungry.
You wouldn't be able to, honestly, you wouldn't be able to do it unless you, prepped,
Well, if I found food.
Yeah,
but if I couldn't find
if
food,
you didn't find food, you'd be done.
a couple of days, and I would
Like 3.
I'd be rocking back and forth in a
It
fetal
would not be
position.
good. We'll work together
Just don't film it then,
Yeah.
Don't film it for international television.
right? We work together
Try it on your own,
sometimes
yeah.
for long periods of time, and he's like, "Are you hungry? Should we get something to eat?" And I'm like, "I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good." And then he'll eat 3 things in between that time.
Yeah.
And I get it, but I eat when I'm hungry. I don't eat, and I'm not saying that you're not hungry, but
It takes a lot of food to fuel this big Norwegian body.
right, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, right. We all have different metabolic needs. Too.
Yeah.
I don't actually eat that much. Still, I don't eat that much.
Yeah,
At all.
yeah.
I don't think I ate till 1:30 today. I didn't even. I was
my
like, I
gosh.
guess I should eat something. It's 1:30.
Yeah, I usually don't eat till
I was
noon.
up
And I
at
know
8,
that's bad,
so.
but
I
your
have to eat
metabolism.
breakfast.
But I just would rather eat because I'm hungry and have something small, and then I really hate the feeling of feeling so overgorged and full after you eat a big meal. I hate that feeling, especially in the middle of the day. And then I have to keep working. Blech. Nope, can't do it.
It's okay to skip lunch. you
Yeah.
know? Have a breakfast. My stomach is screaming at me 10 minutes after I wake up to
Yeah.
put food in it.
Yeah, that's not me. Other than my cup of coffee.
Exactly.
which I have in the morning. Yes, it's good.
I'm the same.
Oh,
Funny.
well.
Perfect.
Well, Nicole, do you have anything else, Frenzy?
I mean, I could talk to her for hours, but
I know.
that means we're just going to have to go take a class.
Yeah, I think we're going to have
There
to
we
do that.
go. Come take a class.
Yep.
We'd love to have you out here.
We would love it. That'd be so awesome. Yay.
All right.
Okay.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much for being with us.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, sure. It was so much fun. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Nice talking with you both
You
tonight.
too.
We learned a lot. We could definitely probably ask you questions for
I
hours. on
literally
this.
could, yeah.
And you could probably have all the answers for us.
I just find it also
Hey, I don't know about all
interesting.
the answers, but I could probably answer
Most of
some
them.
of them.
Yeah.
Meaning of life, it depends how deep you're going to go.
Right? Well, we wish you an awesome, amazing trip back to Africa. And
Yes, be safe.
we would love to have you back on maybe after you get back or sometime in the next few months to hear about that because
Sounds
I
great.
need to hear about that.
Yeah.
All right. I'd be happy to share that with you. It's,
Yay.
it's a pretty transformational trip for people, so
I
it's
bet.
pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
That would be a documentary that I would definitely watch.
Oh, yeah.
Nicole in Africa.
Yeah.
All right. I'll get our videographer on it.
All right. Tell him we said he should.
All right.
All right, Nicole, thank you so much.
Thanks, Nicole.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Bye.
Bye.
I will always carry this place in my heart. And I'm just so grateful for this experience. But in the end, I found out what my limit was, and that was love. 2 months, that's a long time in a child's life, and my kids need me back home. Goodbye, Clove. Bye, bears. I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss them. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I'm leaving. Woo, here we go. I was able to fulfill my personal goal of being out here. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. If you really want to do something like this, you can do it.
Okay, that was our guest, Dr. Nicole Apelian.
Yeah, she was an amazing guest. I loved having her on.
One of a kind, a woman of many talents.
Yeah.
Lion expert is one of them.
I know, that's like the most exciting part for me.
Yeah.
I loved that part.
Yeah, that was a great time. We really got to learn a lot from her, and it was just a really cool conversation.
Yeah. Plus, we're going to go take one of her classes and learn how to tincture some things and learn some stuff about some herbs and living.
Some medicinal stuff.
I like it.
All right, so let's take a look at who we got coming up here on the Surge Approved podcast. On March 12th, Sunday, we have comedian Rob Lewis. Will be on the show. And then we're going to take our 7-day vacation that we always take every month from the show. We take 7 days off and take care of private life stuff, logistics for the show. Just a little breather. It does feel weird, though, when we come back.
It's super weird.
After taking a week off. But when we do come back on March 21st, we're going to have comedian
Dat Fan,
the original winner of Last Comic Standing. Hilarious dude.
Yep.
And he's got a scene in that new movie.
The new movie, the new Kong movie.
Yeah.
About the giant gorilla.
Hopefully the scene involves him like fighting King Kong.
Hopefully. Like
be
riding
awesome.
on his shoulders or something.
Yeah, choking him out jiu-jitsu style.
Heck yeah.
So look forward to that. And then let's give some shout-outs, huh?
Yeah, let's do some shout-outs.
All right, who
do you got? Who do you got? You go first.
Me? Okay.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout-out to comedian Pete Johansson. He's going to be headlining the Comedy Works in Montreal on March 23rd to the 26th. So definitely go check that out if you're in the Montreal area. He will not disappoint. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, very good. Also, if you haven't checked out his special on Netflix, if you haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah, it's called You Might Also Be Interested in Pete Johansson. I believe is what it's called. Yeah. It's an awesome title. Who you got, Frenzy?
I got Mike Lowe.
Mike
Lowe, who was a participant in Alone on the History Channel Season 2 with Nicole Apelian. He's got his side business, Wilderness Way Adventures. You can check that out, wildernesswayadventures.com. And also wanted to make sure to make a shout out to his wife, Barbara.
Hey, Barbara.
Hey, Barbara. So, awesome dude. Awesome episode with them. She actually joined us for a bit at the end, and that was really fun.
I want to give a shout out to Alan Kay.
Yep.
Another contestant that's been on Alone. He was on season 1 and won that thing. Him and Nicole have a workshop that they're doing on May 12th. It's a wilderness living skills and emergency preparedness workshop. And that's going to be from May 12th to May 16th at Soapstone Woodland Retreat in Nehalem, Oregon. I'm probably pronouncing that town wrong, but the tickets are available on Nicole's website, which is NicoleApelian.com. So check that out. If you're in that area and you want to sign up for one of those classes, I can't think of two people that would be better instructors. You know, I mean, they both obviously know what they're doing. Yeah,
and they're actually also going to be at Replicons in Salt Lake City, April 21st through April 22nd. And it's apparently super cheap to go. It's like $20 for 2 days, and you can gain some super amazing knowledge. So if you are in the Salt Lake City area and you do not go to this event, Preppercon, you're totally missing out.
Shame on you.
Check it out.
Miss out on that.
Do
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Who else you got?
I got Doc Collins, who is a veteran athlete, speaker, and author who has a book coming out soon. It's the 5-book series, and the first book of that series is called 1,300 Hours. You can find that on patriotheartpress.com. He is going to be a guest host with us coming up, I think in April, with Dwayne Perro, who is also a combat veteran who is working with combat veterans to
transitioning
into being entrepreneurs and all that good stuff. So
that's
it's a good combination.
April 17th.
April 17th. Yep.
All right. And I just have to mention this. Comedian Alex Avery, he's been on the show. He recently did a gig at the Funhouse Lounge in Portland, and this video is on his Facebook page. He gets completely butt naked.
Totally naked.
On stage. I mean, completely naked. There's a stripper pole involved. He's wearing some kind of corset thing, and then eventually he gets completely naked. So
that's amazing. If
anyone out there has been dying to see Alex Avery nude on stage, go check out his Facebook page. The video's there. It's on YouTube too.
I guess I need to do a shout out to his girlfriend, Angelique Carrington, for supporting that situation. And I'm sure she had no problem with it, but hey girl, good job.
All right. So that's it for this show.
Yeah, we're done.
So what we need you listeners to do is go to our Twitter page, follow us. Go to our Facebook page, Sarge Approved, and like it. Go to our website. What is our website, Frenzy?
www.sargeapproved.com.
Yes, you can find all our episodes there. You can find our guest calendar, all our past guests, future guests, and little profile pages on them.
All the music that we choose for our guests.
Yes, yep, all their theme songs. And, you can find our show on iTunes. We're on Spreaker, YouTube.
Google Play
Music. Yes, good one. Just type in Sarge Approved. You're going to find us. It's not that hard.
Right. And also check out our sponsors, which is what?
National Survival Center. They've got all the gear you need if you're looking to do some camping, you want to practice some survival skills, or the zombies have shown up and you need to bug out.
Yep.
They have all the gear you need. It's all top of the line stuff, name brand stuff you're going to find in the big box stores, except here's the caveat. It's cheaper than any of that stuff you're going to get at the big box store. It's probably cheaper than anywhere else you're going to find it on the internet.
Oh my gosh.
These guys that are running this business, they are combat veterans, and they're not looking to get rich. They want to provide top-of-the-line gear at an affordable price.
Yeah, so support those guys. Go to www.nationalsurvivorcenter.com or
survivedon'tsuffer.com. That's their motto.
Right, but either way,
survive, don't suffer.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, and they got free shipping on like almost everything.
Except for survival food.
So check it out. Because
just do it anyway. Just check it out.
Survival food is heavy.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. We're done.
We're so done.
Let's wrap this up. We are going to play this episode out with a song, a special song by Dr. Nicole Apelian.
Herself.
She's singing For What It's Worth.
Whoop, whoop.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks, you guys. Bye.
Later.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Battle lines are being drawn. Ooh, nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds, getting so much resistance from behind. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Quite a field day for the heat. Ooh, 1,000 people in the streets, singing songs when you're always afraid. Step out of line, the man comes and takes you away. I think it's time we stop.